Hey everyone, this is the Hot Revenge community. Ready to hear a new intense story? Then settle in, because we're starting. I'm Brittany. When I turned 27, I finally grasped the cost of being the secondary figure. The card felt substantial, rich to the touch, with a creamy gold hue. My name was embossed on it, signaling importance. It announced the prestigious architectural honor ceremony at the Los Angeles Museum of Modern Art, MoMA, set for December 15th. I traced the seal with my finger, questioning whether this dream was real. My design for a sustainable community library had earned this recognition. It had evolved past late-night sketching sessions and the initial concepts. Now, people notice my work. Do you know what it feels like to be invisible within your own family? Comment below. I immediately dialed my mother. She picked up on the third ring, sounding distracted. The loud hum of a television filled the background. Football was probably on again. "Hey, Mom, I have huge news." She asked what was going on. "I won a major award, the prestigious architectural honor. I'm speaking at MoMA in LA. A long silence followed. Then, I heard my father's muffled voice asking her who was on the line. She cupped her hand over the speaker but didn't mute it entirely. "It's Brittany. She got that little drawing award." "A drawing award?" I thought quietly. "That's great, dear," she said in a forced, cheerful tone. She asked for the date. "December 15th. It's a Saturday." The line went completely silent, so long that I feared we'd been disconnected. Then came her deep exhale, one I knew too well. "Oh, Brittany, that weekend is Mason's playoff game." Instantly, I felt breathless. "But the event is only Saturday night, Mom. Doesn't his game start Friday?" "We know, but your father and I decided we should drive down early. We need to help him prepare and get settled. The weather might be bad. We must be there just in case." Those last 3 words, "just in case," summed up my whole childhood. They always meant my brother's needs came first, that his concerns outweighed mine. "I've worked hard too," I insisted, my voice quiet but firm. "I dedicated my entire career to this." "He really expects us to be there, Brittany," she replied, as if that settled everything. "But this is MoMA, Mom. I'm giving the keynote address." "Well, you can just record it for us, right?" she suggested with a breezy, caring tone that felt utterly dismissive. "We can watch it after his game when we get home." That was the exact moment I felt the deep fracture inside me, the sound of something breaking irreparably. I stayed silent, staring at the wall of my studio, at the architectural plans I had finished only hours before. "Brittany, don't be difficult." "Difficult how?" I asked. "You're showing no empathy," she said. My voice turned icy. "I'm just stating what I expect from you." "We'll try to attend if we can," she lied effortlessly. "No, don't," I said firmly. "Please don't inconvenience yourselves." I hung up before tears fell. I glanced around my small studio. On my desk was a framed family photo from Mason's college signing day. My parents were radiant, wearing his team jersey, proud of him as he held his pen like a trophy. I was barely visible, partially shadowed at the edge, my face blurred, almost disposable. This was the arithmetic of favoritism I had known my whole life. Mason was the whole number, I was the leftover, the remainder, the miscalculation. I remembered the first architecture school scholarship I earned. Calling home, barely containing my excitement, my father's response had been, "That's good. Did you hear Mason just got the starting quarterback position?" I had paid my way through 6 years of college, battling student loans, holding 2 part-time jobs. Meanwhile, my brother got a new truck, spring break trips, and rent paid for his off-campus apartment. This wasn't new, it was just the latest chapter. I chose not to call back, not to text. Arguing works only when the other person recognizes your right to anger. I sat there, examining the stark reality. Their love always boiled down to the same result. Mason's needs always outweighed mine. It took years to learn the psychological term. Golden child, black sheep. This wasn't about parental love, it was about ego. Mason was their reflection, their chance at renewed glory, their public success. When he triumphed, they felt victorious. I, the black sheep, reflected everything they preferred to ignore. My quiet ambition wasn't prideful to them, it was threatening. My career choices weren't independence. They were critiques of their lives. Mason was the mirror, I was the competitor. That explained their investments in him. I thought of my 6 years in architecture school. Sleepless nights fueled by cheap coffee and instant meals, constantly fighting for scholarships, juggling 2 jobs to cover rent and supplies, graduating with over $75,000 in debt. I recalled calling home terrified after my junior year financial aid was reduced. My father told me, "Well, Brittany, you're grown now. You have to take responsibility for your decisions." A month later, they bought Mason a brand new truck for his 21st birthday. I remembered his European summers, financed by graduation gifts, while I worked unpaid internships in Los Angeles, fighting to start my career. They weren't just overlooking me, they were funding him while depleting me. They didn't see me as a daughter. I was a dependable service, the responsible one, the one who would always acquiesce. I looked at the cream envelope holding my prestigious architectural award. I realized they assumed I would quietly accept being substituted for his game. I picked up my phone. I didn't call them. I opened my email and wrote to the awards committee, requesting 2 tickets. I typed the names Sierra and Professor Graham, my closest friend and my mentor, the people who genuinely valued my efforts. They were the ones who showed up for me when my family was too busy watching sports. They were my real family. The silence that followed wasn't emptiness. It was open space, like the first truly clean and peaceful room I had ever inhabited. Nobody called me, I didn't send texts, and I focused entirely on my work. 18 months passed. This time wasn't measured in days. It was measured in completed blueprints and productive client meetings. I poured all my energy, every late night, and every ounce of my accumulated resentment into Zenith Studios. This was my company, my vision. I hired 2 younger designers who shared my dedication to sustainable materials. We secured a contract for a small community center, followed by a boutique hotel project. I worked relentlessly until my hands ached and my mind felt calm. I was building something tangible, something that carried my identity, something far more substantial than any connection I had ever had with my family. During this period, I met Finn. We crossed paths at a construction site where he worked as a landscape architect. He had a serene, focused presence, and importantly, he actually saw my designs. He asked thoughtful questions about airflow, natural light, and how the structure would harmonize with the surrounding landscape. After our 3rd date, he asked the expected question, his eyes gentle. "Do you have family nearby?" I braced for the usual tightening in my chest, the urge to apologize or explain, but it never came. "They are around," I replied. He simply nodded, understanding the weight of the answer. "Around sounds complicated. It's less complicated when I avoid calling them," I said. That was all. He didn't press, didn't demand a full explanation. He just accepted my answer and moved on to ask about the rest of my day. For the first time, I realized that real support doesn't have to be loud or dramatic. Sometimes, it's just the quiet absence of judgment. My life began to feel steady, like a foundation I was deliberately pouring for myself, square foot by square foot. The quality of my projects improved, and we began focusing on sustainable housing for low-income residents, blending aesthetic appeal with genuine human needs. Then one afternoon, Professor Graham called. His voice was unusually serious, though I suspected a smile behind it. "Brittany," he said, "have you seen the latest Architectural Digest?" "No, I'm buried under city zoning requirements for the Milner project." "Why not? You should probably buy a copy." I flipped to page 90. My heart raced. I rushed to the nearby newsstand that stocked the pricey international architecture magazines. My hands trembled as I skimmed the glossy pages, and then I saw it. The AD40 list, the new generation of architects. My community library design, along with my photograph, filled a 2-page spread. I hadn't even known Professor Graham had submitted my name. This wasn't just another win. It was the major one, the equivalent of the Forbes list in my industry. Recognition declaring, "You aren't just talented, you are the future." I sat on a park bench, the magazine open on my lap, thinking back to that first award at MoMA and the desperate longing for my family's approval, the heartbreak when they chose a game over me. Now, holding this magazine, I realized I hadn't even considered telling them. I had built a full life, career, home, circle of support, so complete that their recognition was no longer necessary. I was my own designer, my own support system. And as for them, they were just the people who used to live nearby, still stuck mentally in a stadium, cheering a game that had ended seasons ago, entirely unaware that the daughter they dismissed had quietly taken control of her destiny. I didn't anticipate the AD40 list would be announced on a Tuesday. I was deep in a brainstorming session for a new client, sketching an eco-friendly atrium, when my phone, lying face down, started vibrating incessantly. Sierra, my colleague across the table, raised an eyebrow. "Are you secretly a spy?" she whispered. I ignored it. After the meeting, I discovered 19 new text messages, 43 email notifications, and 7 missed calls. The list had gone live. Former colleagues, old professors, even clients from the boutique hotel were sending congratulations. Stunning work. "You earned this." Professor Graham's text was the shortest. "Told you so." I sat, frozen, staring at my picture on the Architectural Digest website, next to the description, "The Visionary." It felt surreal yet grounding. Finn sent a screenshot with a long chain of champagne bottle emojis. I called him, and he laughed. "I'm dating a visionary," he said. "Cancel your plans. We're celebrating." It was a perfect moment of pure joy, made even sweeter by the deafening silence from my family. They were completely oblivious, playing no part in this achievement. My success belonged entirely to me. But, as the universe often reminds us, a vacuum is never permanent. My family, ironically, discovered it in the one place I would have least expected. Mason, visiting his head coach for an end-of-season review, was flipping through Architectural Digest, ostensibly looking for photos of luxury cars or watches. He turned a page, then another, and froze. There I was on a 2-page feature, my community library design, my photo, self-assured, happy, nothing like the easily dismissed sister he remembered. He stared at my name, my face, Brittany, Zenith Studios, the visionary. The details didn't compute. This was his quiet sister, the one who always lost arguments and paid her own way through college. How? He didn't text me. He didn't even call me. He called our father. Dad told me about the phone call much later, his voice still shaky from the memory. Mason's voice had sounded hysterical, breathless, and frantic over the phone. "Dad, are you seeing this? How did she manage this?" "Manage what, Mason? What's wrong?" "The magazine, the AD40 list. Brittany is in it. How did she get featured? Is this true? How much money is she making? What exactly is Zenith Studios? Why did she keep this from us?" Our father, confused, hung up and called my mother. "Eleanor, go to the market right now and get an Architectural Digest magazine. Something is seriously wrong with Brittany." My mother, annoyed, went to the local grocery store. She found the magazine and, standing in the checkout line, flipped through the pages until she saw my photograph. Immediately, the family group chat, the one I had never been included in, erupted. My professional triumph wasn't seen as a reason to celebrate. It was treated as an unexpected attack. They weren't proud. They were furious that I had accomplished the one thing they never imagined, becoming successful and relevant entirely on my own without asking for their permission. The call started on Thursday, directed to my office line rather than my personal phone. Sierra buzzed me. "Brittany, your mother is on line 1. She sounds determined." I glanced at the receiver. "Tell her I'm tied up with a client," I instructed. That excuse lasted the whole day. An hour later, Sierra called again, her voice tight. "Brittany, your mother is standing in the lobby." I walked out. Eleanor held a foil-wrapped Pyrex dish, the classic gesture of offering peace without an apology. "Brittany, thank God!" She rushed forward. "We were so worried you never told us about the magazine." I stayed still, forcing her to hold the dish. "I'm working, Mom." "I brought your favorite," she said, lifting the dish. "We have to talk." "There's nothing to discuss. You must go. You're disrupting my firm." Her smile vanished. "Don't be difficult. This has gone on long enough. You've clearly proven your point." "I haven't proven anything," I countered, my voice sharp and controlled. "I've only focused on my career." I told Sierra to escort my mother out. Eleanor placed the casserole on the front desk. I instructed Sierra to discard it immediately. My father's ambush came next, more calculated, waiting at 6 a.m. outside my gym. He stepped out from behind a parked car, holding 2 coffees. "Brittany," he said, offering a cup. "Got a minute?" I ignored the coffee. You are trespassing, Dad. Don't be dramatic. We admit we were wrong about the award we didn't attend, but you always seemed so self-sufficient, Brittany. We thought you didn't need us. This was their usual defense for choosing Mason. I wasn't self-sufficient, Dad. I was neglected, I said, my quiet voice cutting through the morning air. I needed you for student loans. You co-signed for Mason immediately. I needed you at my college graduation. I needed you at MoMA. I stopped asking because you were always at a game. He stood silent, looking defeated, the coffee cooling in his hand. I need to go inside, I said, walking past him into the gym. Then Mason arrived, banging on my apartment door. I opened it slightly. He just stared, his golden boy persona stripped away. You're making us appear monstrous, Brittany, he accused. I'm simply refusing to hide your choices anymore, I said, shutting the door on him. The decisive confrontation was yet to come. An email invitation arrived from my former high school, requesting me, an AD-40 recipient, to be the keynote speaker for their annual career day. The irony was immense. The same auditorium where my parents had cheered loudly for Mason from the hard bleachers. I typed back a single word, yes. On the day of the speech, I felt perfectly calm. I entered the old auditorium, and just as I had anticipated, tucked discreetly in the last row, were the three of them, Eleanor, Robert, and Mason. They had found their way in. I walked to the podium, deliberately avoiding their gaze, and focused on the 300 students. Good morning, I began. When I was a student here, I was background noise. I kept my grades up, caused no problems, and was always the reliable child. I clicked the slide, showing my prestigious architectural honor invitation. 18 months ago, I earned this, the highest award in my profession. The most crucial night of my life. I was scheduled to give a speech at Los Angeles. The next slide appeared, a sharp black and white image of 3 empty auditorium seats. These were the seats reserved for my family, I said into the microphone. A deep silence gripped the room. They hadn't shown up. They had chosen my brother's playoff game instead. They told me to just send a video. I felt the heat of their absence from the back. I am not sharing this for pity, I said, my voice strong. I'm sharing this because my entire life, I believed their approval was the prize. I thought I had to work harder, achieve more, just to get their focus. I was wrong. I clicked to the final slide, the Architectural Digest cover, my name, my face. Your source of validation is the structure you build for yourself. It is not a waiting room for someone else's permission. Don't base your dreams on outside approval. They may not be present. Build for yourself, because you will always be there. The students were captivated. In the back, my mother covered her face with her hands. I had never felt so powerful. The silence that followed was peaceful, not angry, settling over me like fresh, clean snow. Zenith Studios flourished. We hired 3 new employees and secured the Milner project. Finn and I moved into a beautiful West Side apartment with large windows capturing morning light. Professor Graham and Sierra became my chosen family. Months passed. My father's attempts to contact me stopped, and my mother's angry messages dwindled to nothing. Then, nearly 18 months after the high school speech, a text arrived from an unknown number. Brittany, I honestly don't know if you'll read this. I don't expect a response, but I've been in therapy for 6 months. I needed to understand why I behaved that way, why I assumed you would always accept sacrifice. I was selfish. I saw you as just a given. I took your support for granted and let Mom and Dad do it, too. I truly apologize for being a poor brother. I regret my absence. It was Mason. I read it 3 times. Sincere, deliberate, honest, clearly shaped by counseling. 6 years ago, it would have mattered. 2 years ago, it would have been a massive relief. Now, I felt only quiet acceptance. He was finally doing his own work. I saved the text in a folder titled Closed and permanently deleted it. The apology had arrived, but I no longer needed it. My success wasn't about their eventual understanding. It was about the price I had already paid. I realized there are 2 forms of justice. Punitive justice, which looks backward and seeks to settle old scores, keeping you tethered to those you're trying to escape. And creative justice, the justice of the builder, which looks forward, using the debris of what was ruined to construct a stronger foundation. I opened my laptop, reviewing the $2.5 million in seed funding I had secured for Zenith Studios' next phase. I transferred a portion to a new account, not for a car, not for a house, but to establish the Zenith Scholarship, a full tuition fund for ambitious architecture students from struggling backgrounds, for those who lacked a family safety net like I had. I stand now in my new office, which I designed, with a large glass wall overlooking the Los Angeles skyline. It is quiet here. I am at peace. If you have ever felt disposable, if you've celebrated your greatest achievements in silence because no one would answer your call, take this as your sign. You do not need anyone's permission to succeed. Your validation is the solid foundation you build yourself, not a space you wait for someone else to grant access to. Start building.